Hello, I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Fantasy Six Pack to talk about Monday Night Football. The New York Football Jets, Jets, head all the way to the coast to take on San Francisco with Purdy and CMC. Ayuk is finally, hopefully, settled in at this point, and Deebo Samuel. Kickoff is at 8:15 p.m. Over under around 43 points. Before I get into all that, player projections, some little tidbits of news, sports betting trends, and such, make sure you get to the website at Fantasy Six Pack on Twitter and look around at what they have. You can be on the Discord. It's a premium service, but that is where everything is going down. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, screenshots, lineup builds, cores, anything you need for DFS purposes is at Fantasy Six Pack. Not to mention their bread and butter is seasonal fantasy football and dynasty fantasy football. We have some of the best, if not the best, rankers in all of the land at Fantasy Six Pack. IDP stuff, their cheat sheets, everything from start to finish, from top to bottom, east to west, north, however you want to put it. Get to Fantasy Six Pack. Once you get to the Discord, why don't you tag me at Detroit Beastie? Say hi. That's where everything, every thought I have goes there, or out of a pen onto a piece of paper. All right, let's talk about this game, shall we? The Jets go to San Francisco, Levi Stadium. They have free, I think, maybe I'm mistaken. They have most of their chairs have Wi-Fi. You could plug your phone in. I mean, it's a pretty cool deal over there. But as it stands now, 8:15 kickoff. Over under is at 43 points. And what are the storylines to this game? I mean, it's been a wildly fun week one, I should say. And this game ends week one, and bang, just like that, we're off to week two. Before you know it, week 8, 9, 10, and we are rolling. The storylines in this one, you look at a top tier team in the NFC in San Francisco. They went to the Super Bowl. They lost, but hey, they're one of, top 3, top 5 teams in the NFC going against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, who hope to be, in the upper echelon of the AFC. But look, Aaron, we know what happened with Rodgers last year. Hurt his Achilles on like the first drive of the game, and he's worked his way back. He's done a lot of guest appearances on talk shows and broadcasts and podcasts. We can put everything we dislike about Rodgers to the side, and we'll be respectful and leave it on the field here. Rodgers and Brock Purdy, that's where we're going to start at when we look at the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco, who's 14th overall against opposing quarterbacks. Rodgers, 14 grand on FanDuel, 9 grand on DraftKings, 24 to 25 completions, 260 yards, a touchdown pass, and even in his old ripe age, you should say, he's probably 2 years older than me, and he's on the football field. He's going to move the chains, maybe once or twice, nothing crazy, 6 to 10 yards. We're not going to make our hay on Aaron Rodgers' rushing yards. When we look at Brock Purdy, who's, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick, he's come in, and I mean, that storyline's been, talked to death, seeing how their playoff run ending in the Super Bowl loss. I mean, there's not much you can uncover when you talk about Brock Purdy. Now, professionally, personally, I don't know. As it stands now, the Jets very good, second overall against opposing quarterbacks. Purdy 14-5 on FanDuel, 9-2 on DK, 22 to 23 completions, around 265 yards, and a touchdown pass, maybe 2, and he will, go off and scurry, scamper, however you want to put it, 10 to 15 yards on the ground. When we look at the running backs, this is where the action is. If you're not ground and pound, I guess could be a way, but Breece Hall and CMC are very similar, aside from their skin color, their service time in the NFL, and we'll go from there. Let's start with Breece Hall in Frisco. Frisco, third overall against opposing running backs. Frisco's defensive line is just unbelievably outstanding. But again, this is their first game of the season, so you're going to work things out on the fly. They aren't as cohesive in week 1 as they would be in week 10. Hey, Chris, tell us something we don't know, dummy. But hey, it is what it is. Breece Hall, 15 grand on FanDuel, 10-2 on DK, 14-15 carries, around 60 to 65 yards, and 4 to 5 receptions for another 40 to 45 yards. So you're looking at about 100 all-purpose yards for Breece Hall. Behind him, there's the rookie, Braylon Allen. What about Israel? Israel A, I'll call it. Let's sound it out phonetically. Israel A. Ban Ikada. I'll leave it at that. Israel and Braylon Allen. The only one I would probably, sprinkle in is the rookie, Braylon Allen. $7,000 on FanDuel, 2.8 on DK, 3 to 4 carries, 15, maybe 20 yards, and a reception or two for around 5 to 10 yards. When you look at Christian McCaffrey and everybody, in seasonal formats, it's week 1. Is he going to play? Is he not? And again, it's a Monday Night Football game, so he's going to play. I don't think anybody, because I've read, and I'm sure all of you have, access to the same information I do. He's going to play. Will it be a full workload? More than likely. Once the guys get the juices flowing and the smelling salts and the caffeine or whatever else they're into, once he's on the field, he's going to roll. And the Jets, 27th overall against opposing running backs, 17-5 on FanDuel, 11-6 on DK, 17 to 18 carries, 80 yards. That seems like a full workload to me. A touchdown on the ground, in addition to 4 to 5 carries for another 40 yards. So you're looking at around, again, over 100 all-purpose yards. If I do the math right, 80 plus 4, 8 plus 4, that's 12, add a 0, 120 yards and a touchdown. Standard stuff for Christian McCaffrey. Behind him, not everybody, whatever websites write the player blurbs on fantasy, and shout out to Sleeper. They have one of the better, functioning sites around, or apps around. So shout out to them. Jordan Mason could see some action, a little. He was going to see action anyways, but a little bit more, maybe in the early going. First quarter, I'm guessing max, just to sprinkle him in, get Christian McCaffrey some early rest in between, drives or big chunk yardage plays. Mason, 7-5 on FanDuel, 3K on DraftKings, 4 to 5 carries, around 20 to 25 yards. I cannot get, in good conscience, go talk about a single game slate when Kyle Juszczyk is playing. Got that one right. Chalk one up for me. Kyle Juszczyk, it's $6,000 on FanDuel, only $600 on DraftKings. Anytime he's going to be on the field and playing in any sort of fashion, we have to be mindful of him. We look at the wide receivers. We're about 8 minutes into this thing. I'm going to try and tone it down, keep it to 10 to 12. Realistically, I'd like to keep it to 5 to 8, but we're at the high end of that now. So let's just keep rolling here. When we look at the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson for the Jets, he's their stone cold stud, the kid that they want to be, to elevate and bring up to wide receiver 1 status, not only in the league, but on the team. And he's already there in the depth chart, right? Garrett Wilson, 12-5 on FanDuel, 9-8 on DK, 10 or 11 targets, 6 to 7 receptions, and around 80 yards. As it stands now, Frisco 19th overall against opposing wide receivers. You got Mike Williams, Allen Lazard. Maybe I just caught that maybe 10 minutes ago when I was doing the notes. Allen Lazard and Aaron Rodgers, can they reestablish whatever kind of love or connection they had in Green Bay? Could be in for, a sneaky 20-yard reception, 28 to 30-yard reception, 3-4 targets, 2 to 3 receptions, around 30 yards. Mike Williams, 4 to 5 targets, 3-4 receptions, and 40 yards. I mean, I have no ill will against Mike Williams, but it's the same old song and dance every season. The dude just cannot stay healthy, and last year was probably the nastiest injury of them all when he tore up his knee, but he's going to be out there. He's going to be active, so it's kind of like a use it or lose it kind of deal, because we know, fingers crossed, I don't want to be an a-hole or talk bad of someone, but more than likely Mike Williams is not going to see a full complement of games this season. Let's move it along. Debo, Ayuk, finally Ayuk has signed his contract. You know what I find weird, and San Francisco is a phenomenal football team. It's run well. And when you look at all the off-season stuff of Brandon Ayuk wanting to get paid, and I respect that. If you're going to put your body at risk on a football field, you want some certain assurances. He could have just signed the contract, in a dark room, in the boiler room, and moved on. They made it a whole deal, like it was a rookie signing their first contract or some extension on good terms. When you look at Debo, right now, the Jets first overall against opposing wide receivers. Sauce Gardner, stone cold stud, east side of Detroit guy, 11-5 on FanDuel is Debo, 9-6 on DK, 6-7 targets, 5 to 6 receptions, around 70 yards. And we know he's going to get a carry or two, 10 to 15 yards. Maybe they I'm not going to say kid gloves, but maybe later in the season, right? When everybody gets rolling and injuries, not injuries, but taking better care of your body, right? Because it's in season car accident kind of thing, like George Kittle has said. I don't think that they're going to unbuckle Debo, week one because of, an injury history there. A lot of little soft tissue stuff, but it can linger. So I don't know if they're going to need Debo, on the field 100% of the snaps to beat the Jets on Monday night. So temper expectations there. That means he'll probably score a touchdown, 100 yards, and the folks on TikTok are going to say you're a dummy, you don't do it. We'll leave it at that. When you look at Ayuk, 10 grand on FanDuel, 8-4 on DK, 6-7 targets, 4-5 receptions, around 70 yards. He is absolutely in play as well. So is Juwan Jennings, right? And you got Ronnie Bell sort of there. Chris Conley, had a shout out from the head coach. That was about a month ago, but Chris Conley he's a veteran, not a lot. He's not, a big name or, in circles, people go, oh, you got to get Chris Conley. He's a sneaky play, but these guys are going to factor in. And when you got a guy like Brock Purdy as your quarterback, finally, stepped up and he's flourishing, he can kind of spread the ball around. That's the issue. It's not a bad issue when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, but we have to be aware of that, like the Xavier Gibsons of the world for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is very good at getting the ball around. And again, Xavier Gibson could have one catch for 20 yards and it's a touchdown, and it's going to screw our single game lineup. So let's talk about the tight ends and kickers maybe, and we'll get the heck out of here. We're at about 13 minutes now. George Kittle and Tyler Conklin. It's just that those two tight ends, on the slate. And George Kittle obviously is the higher end of the tight end spectrum of this game. Jets 23rd overall against opposing tight ends. Kittle 11 grand on FanDuel, 7-4 on DK, 6-7 targets, 4-5 receptions, and around 50 to 55 yards. Raise your hand if you're up, a decent amount of points in your seasonal fantasy leagues or dynasty leagues. And tonight, the only player that the opposing team has left to kind of thwart a win is George Kittle. Yeah, that's me. We'll see how it goes. Jake Tongas, he's their second-year guy, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to be around only $200 on DraftKings. Could be, one or two receptions in the red zone maybe, or a 30-yard pass on the sideline, something like that. Not enough to move the needle, but again, it's a single game slate. Everybody moves the needle if you want to win any sort of substantial cash. Tyler Conklin is the Jets starting tight end against Frisco, 11th overall against tight ends, 8 grand on FanDuel, 3-6 on DK, 5-6 targets, 4-5 receptions. I know Aaron Rodgers loves a tight end, and Tyler Conklin is that guy as it stands. 4-5 receptions for about 40 yards. As we wrap this thing up, the DSTs, both of these defenses are looking to take, a step to be in the upper tier of DSTs. Their price tags reflect it. I have each team for 2 sacks. I have each team with an interception. The only difference is I have the Jets with a fumble recovery, so that might tip the scale a little bit if you're looking for a DST to put in an MVP captain spot. Don't think it's the kind of night for that. I often get into that kind of mode or playing, but tonight it's all about the offensive talent studs. It's Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, and the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel. It might be a little sneaky Jordan Mason action or a little sneaky Juwan Jennings action, and you can top it all off with Tyler Conklin inside the red zone. San Francisco, 7-2-1, their last 10 against the over-under, and then the Jets, 2-8 against the spread, their last 10. So give me the San Francisco 49ers to win this one by double-digit points, 24-10, 24-13, something along those lines, and that is it. Frisco will win. You can take them minus the points, and I will see you again for Thursday Night Football. Be good, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. San Francisco wins at home, week 1. Bye.